Admiral Vexthak stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the empty space ahead. His 4 eyes focused on the tactical display showing 12 heavy cruisers positioned in a perfect circle. Each ship was massive, built for war, and equipped with enough firepower to destroy a small moon. The Kithaeron fleet had been waiting here for 3 days. "Admiral, the target should arrive soon," said his second-in-command, Officer Zaltak. The younger Kithaeron's scales were bright green, showing excitement. This would be his first encounter with humans. Vexthak's own scales had turned a darker shade of blue, the color of confidence and control. He had been fighting wars for over 40 years. He had conquered 17 different species and brought their worlds under Kithaeron rule. Humans would be number 18. "Tell me about these humans again," Vexthak said, though he already knew the answer. He wanted his crew to hear it. Zaltak pulled up the intelligence files. "They are a young species from a small planet called Earth. They have soft skin, no natural armor, and only 2 eyes. Their bones break easily. Most importantly, they are emotional creatures who panic under pressure." The bridge crew made sounds of amusement. How could such weak beings ever hope to fight the mighty Kithaeron hegemony? "Their ship is called the Meridian Dawn," Zaltak continued. "It is a cargo vessel carrying terraforming equipment to one of their colonies. The ship has light shields and no weapons. The crew is only 23 humans." Vexthak nodded. "And how many times have humans surrendered when faced with our forces?" "Every time, Admiral. In our last 5 encounters, they gave up immediately when they saw our ships. They even begged us not to hurt them." This was true. The Kithaeron military had a simple strategy that worked on every species they met. First, they would surround the enemy with overwhelming force. Then they would broadcast recordings of their previous victories, showing how they had crushed other civilizations. Finally, they would demand surrender. Fear would do the rest. The method had never failed. Weak species always chose to live as slaves rather than die fighting. The Kithaerons believed this proved their superiority over all other life forms in the galaxy. "Admiral, we have contact," announced the sensor officer. "One ship dropping out of hyperspace exactly where predicted." On the main screen, space rippled and twisted. A moment later, a human ship appeared. It was smaller than any Kithaeron vessel, with a simple design that looked more like a flying box than a warship. The hull was painted white with blue markings that spelled out UES Meridian Dawn in human letters. Vexthak smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. "Begin the encirclement protocol. I want them to see all of our ships before we make contact." The 12 Kithaeron cruisers moved into position. Each one was 5 times larger than the human ship. Their hulls were dark metal covered in weapon ports and armor plating. When the formation was complete, the human vessel sat in the center like a tiny fish surrounded by sharks. "Open a channel," Vexthak ordered. The communication system activated. On the screen, a human face appeared. It was a female with brown skin and short black hair. Her expression was calm, which surprised Vexthak. Most species showed fear by now. "This is Captain Elena Vasquez of the UES Meridian Dawn," the human said. "State your business." Vexthak stepped forward. "I am Admiral Vexthak of the Kithaeron hegemony. You are surrounded by 12 heavy cruisers. Your shields cannot protect you. Your weapons cannot harm us. You will surrender immediately and prepare to be boarded." The human captain looked at something off-screen, then back at the camera. "I see your ships, Admiral, impressive, but I'm afraid we cannot comply with your demands." "Cannot?" Vexthak's scales darkened with anger. "You have no choice. Watch and learn what happens to those who resist the hegemony." He signaled his communications officer, who began broadcasting the victory recordings. The screen filled with images of burning cities, surrendering armies, and defeated alien leaders kneeling before Kithaeron commanders. Species after species had fallen to their might. "The Rillan Empire fought us with 1,000 ships," Vexthak narrated. "We destroyed them in 6 hours. The Morgasi Collective tried to hide in their asteroid fortresses. We cracked them open like eggs. The Viridian Republic thought their quantum shields would save them. They were wrong. The recordings showed massive battles, cities in flames, and millions of beings accepting Kithaeron rule rather than face extinction. It was a powerful display meant to crush the spirit of any opposition." Captain Vasquez watched without expression. When the broadcast ended, she was quiet for a moment. "Very impressive, Admiral," she finally said. "You have clearly conquered many worlds. But I noticed something interesting about all those victories." "And what is that?" Vexthak demanded. None of them were human worlds. The comment caught Vexthak off guard. He had expected begging, crying, or immediate surrender. Instead, this human seemed almost amused. "You are only 23 beings on a single cargo ship," he said. "We are over 4,000 warriors on 12 warships. How can you possibly resist?" Captain Vasquez reached for something on her control panel. "Admiral, you seem to know a lot about other species, but not much about humans. Let me teach you something." Her hand pressed a button. Immediately, alarms began sounding on every Catheran ship. "What is happening?" Vexthak roared at his sensor officer. "Admiral, they are broadcasting some kind of signal. It appears to be a distress beacon." Vexthak laughed. "They are calling for help? There are no human ships within 50 light years. By the time any rescue arrives, this will be over." But Captain Vasquez was smiling now. "Admiral, you are correct. No human ships will arrive in time to save us. But that signal was not a distress call. Then what was it? A combat report. We just uploaded our sensor data, tactical analysis, and formal declaration of engagement to the Human Defense Network. Every human ship, station, and colony now knows exactly where you are, what you are doing, and what you did to our people at Kepler 442b. Vexthak felt a chill run down his spine. Kepler 442b had been a small human farming colony. His forces had destroyed it 2 months ago as a warning to other human settlements. How did she know about that? "You still die here," he said, trying to sound confident. Captain Vasquez nodded. "Maybe we do. But Admiral, you have made a serious mistake. You studied our surrender records, but you forgot to study our war records. Humans have been fighting each other for thousands of years. We know how to fight. More importantly, we know when to fight." She leaned forward in her chair. "And Admiral, you just gave us a reason to fight." The transmission ended. Vexthak stared at the dark screen, feeling something he had not experienced in decades. Uncertainty. Captain Elena Vasquez sat in her command chair, looking at the 12 alien warships surrounding her vessel. Each Catheran cruiser was massive and threatening, bristling with weapons that could vaporize her ship in seconds. Her crew of 23 watched their stations, waiting for orders. "Captain, they are hailing us again," reported Lieutenant Chen from the communications station. "Put them through," Elena said calmly. Admiral Vexthak's face appeared on the main screen. His 4 eyes showed anger, and his scales had turned a dark red color. Elena had learned enough about Catheran body language to know this meant he was furious. "Human Captain, you have wasted enough of my time," the alien commander snarled. "You will surrender now, or we will destroy your ship and everyone on it." Elena looked around her bridge. Her crew showed no signs of fear. Lieutenant Murphy at the weapons station gave her a small nod. Ensign Patel at sensors had her hand ready over her controls. They all knew what was coming next. "Admiral, I have a counter-proposal," Elena said. "You and your fleet will leave this system immediately. You have 30 seconds to begin your retreat." The Catheran admiral made a sound that might have been laughter. "You cannot be serious. You are one small ship against 12 heavy cruisers. Your cargo vessel has no weapons, weak shields, and a hull made of simple metal. We could destroy you without even trying." 25 seconds, Admiral. Vexthak's scales turned an even deeper red. "Are all humans this stupid? Let me explain your situation more clearly." The screen changed to show a tactical display. Elena could see her ship as a tiny dot surrounded by much larger symbols representing the Catheran fleet. "Each of my cruisers carries enough firepower to level a city," Vexthak continued. "Our shields can absorb any attack you might attempt. Our armor is 3 meters thick and made from the strongest metals in the galaxy. You are insects trying to threaten giants." Elena checked her chronometer. 15 seconds, Admiral." "Your bravado is meaningless," the alien said. "I have conquered 17 species. I have destroyed fleets 10 times larger than yours. I have burned worlds to ash. What can one human cargo ship do against the might of the Catheran hegemony?" 10 seconds. Vexthak leaned forward. "You want to know what I did to your colony at Kepler 442b? I turned it into a crater. 50,000 humans died screaming. Their farms burned for weeks. I kept some of them alive just so they could watch their world die." Elena's expression remained calm, but her crew tensed. They had all lost friends and family at Kepler 442b. The colony had been home to farmers, teachers, children, and elderly people who had never hurt anyone. The Kitherans had attacked without warning, without mercy. 5 seconds. "Admiral, I will do the same to every human world until your pathetic species learns to bow before their betters," Vexthak continued, "starting with whoever lives on the planet you were taking that equipment to." "Time's up," Elena said quietly. She pressed a button on her command chair. Immediately, the bridge lighting changed from white to red. Warning sounds filled the air as her ship's computer began announcing status changes. Hull reconfiguration in progress, the computer said. Weapon systems activating. Combat mode engaged. Vexthak stared at the screen in confusion. What is happening to your ship? Elena stood up from her chair. Behind her, the bridge was transforming. Panels slid away to reveal additional control stations. The main view screen expanded and split into multiple tactical displays. Her crew moved to combat positions they had practiced 1,000 times. Admiral, let me introduce myself properly, Elena said. I am Captain Elena Vasquez of the United Earth ship Retribution. We are not a cargo vessel. On every Kithaeron ship, alarms began sounding as their sensors detected massive energy signatures coming from the human vessel. What had appeared to be a simple cargo hauler was changing before their eyes. The Meridian Dawn's outer hull was sliding apart in sections, revealing the true ship underneath. Weapon ports opened along its length. Additional armor plating extended outward. The simple white and blue paint job fell away like a shed skin, showing the dark, angular lines of a human warship. Impossible, Vexthak whispered. My ship has been hunting your fleet for 2 months. Elena continued. We knew you would ambush the next human vessel in this area, so we gave you exactly what you expected to see. The transformation was complete. Where the small cargo ship had been, now floated a sleek predator bristling with weapons. The UES Retribution was smaller than any single Kithaeron cruiser, but it looked far more dangerous. Admiral, you made a mistake when you told me about Kepler 442b, Elena said. Those 50,000 people you murdered. They were not soldiers. They were farmers, doctors, teachers, and children. They never threatened you or your people. Vexthak was trying to give orders to his fleet, but his crews were confused by the sudden appearance of a human warship. Their sensors were detecting energy readings they had never seen before. You see, Admiral, you do not understand humans very well, Elena continued. You think we are weak because we show emotion. You think we are cowards because some of us have surrendered rather than die. But you missed something important about human nature. She walked to the front of the bridge, her hands clasped behind her back. We protect each other. When you hurt innocent humans, you make enemies of all humans. When you threaten our families, our children, our future, you turn ordinary farmers and teachers into warriors. You turn cargo captains into hunters. On the tactical display, the Kithaeron ships were trying to adjust their formation, but they were moving slowly, uncertain how to respond to this unexpected development. The signal I sent earlier was not just a distress call, Elena said. It was a combat declaration. Right now, every human in the galaxy knows that the Kithaeron hegemony has chosen war instead of peace. They know about Kepler 442b. They know you ambushed a ship in human space. They know you threatened to destroy more colonies. Elena turned back to face the screen. Admiral, you have spent your career conquering species that were afraid to fight. Today you learn what happens when you attack a species that chooses to fight back. She nodded to her weapons officer. Lieutenant Murphy, you may fire when ready. The young officer's hands moved over his controls. Aye, Captain. All weapons armed and locked on target. Shall I begin with their flagship? Negative. Start with the ship on our starboard side. I want Admiral Vexthak to watch what happens to his fleet before we deal with him personally. Vexthak was screaming orders at his crews, demanding they open fire immediately, but the Kithaeron ships were still trying to understand what they were facing. Their targeting systems had been locked onto a cargo vessel. Now they had to recalibrate for a warship. That delay would cost them everything. Human captain, you are outnumbered 12-1, Vexthak shouted. Even if your ship has weapons, you cannot defeat my entire fleet. Elena smiled for the first time since the conversation began. It was not a pleasant expression. Admiral, you are correct. This is not a fair fight. She paused. It is not fair for you. The first shot from the UES Retribution was unlike anything the Kithaerons had ever seen. A beam of pure energy, bright as a small sun, reached across space and struck the Kithaeron cruiser designated Target 1. The alien ship's shields flared and died instantly. The beam continued through the hull, cutting the massive warship in half. Admiral Vexthak watched in horror as one of his most powerful ships simply ceased to exist. The two halves drifted apart, atmosphere and debris streaming from the wounds. There were no escape pods. There had been no time for the crew to react. Return fire, he screamed at his fleet. All ships, destroy that human vessel now. The remaining 11 Kytheran cruisers turned their weapons toward the Retribution. Hundreds of energy bolts and missiles streaked across space. The combined firepower was enough to destroy a moon. Captain Vasquez stood calmly on her bridge as the enemy attack approached. "Defensive systems active," she announced. A shimmering barrier appeared around the human ship. The Kytheran weapons struck the barrier and simply disappeared, absorbed harmlessly by technology the aliens had never encountered. The Retribution emerged from the attack completely undamaged. How is that possible? Vexthak demanded of his science officer. "Unknown, Admiral. Their defensive screen is absorbing all energy and redirecting it somehow. Our weapons are having no effect." On the human ship, Lieutenant Murphy was already preparing the second shot. "Captain, next target locked. Shall I use the same weapon?" "Negative," Elena replied. "Let's show them our kinetic systems. Fire railgun maximum charge." The Retribution's hull opened to reveal a long, sleek cannon. Electromagnetic coils along its length began to glow with power. At the far end of the weapon, a solid projectile the size of a telephone pole was loaded and ready. The railgun fired with no visible beam or flash. The projectile accelerated to nearly the speed of light in less than a second. It crossed the distance to Target 2 so fast that the Kytheran ship's sensors barely detected it. The kinetic round struck the alien cruiser amidships and punched completely through it. The impact released energy equivalent to a nuclear explosion. The massive warship cracked in half, then exploded as its power core was breached. Flaming debris scattered in all directions. 2 down, 10 to go, Murphy reported. Vexthak was shouting orders, but his crews were panicking. 2 of their most powerful ships had been destroyed in less than a minute. The enemy had taken their best shots and hadn't even been scratched. "Admiral, we should retreat," suggested his second-in-command. "This human ship has technology we have never seen. We need to report back to Fleet Command." "No," Vexthak roared. "We still outnumber them 10 to 1. Concentrate all fire on a single point. Overwhelm their defenses." The remaining Kytheran ships moved into a tighter formation and focused their weapons on the Retribution's forward section. The combined energy output was enormous, far more than any single ship could generate, but the human vessel's defenses held. The shimmering barrier absorbed every shot, growing brighter as more energy struck it. "Captain, their focused attack is actually charging our defensive grid," reported Ensign Patel from the sensor station. "We are at 120% power." "Excellent," Elena replied. "Lieutenant Murphy, let's try something new. Load nanite warheads." Murphy's fingers danced over his controls. "Nanite missiles armed and ready, Captain, targeting the 3 ships in their forward line. Fire." 3 small missiles launched from the Retribution, each no larger than a coffee cup. They looked insignificant compared to the massive alien warships. The Kytheran point defense systems tried to shoot them down, but the tiny weapons were too fast and maneuverable. Each missile struck a different cruiser and seemed to simply disappear, leaving small holes in the alien hulls. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the nanites began their work. Microscopic machines, smaller than bacteria, spread through the Kytheran ship's systems. They consumed metal, rewrote computer codes, and turned the aliens' own technology against them. Within minutes, the 3 targeted cruisers began firing on their own fleet. "What is happening?" Vexthak screamed as his ships attacked each other. "The nanites are reprogramming their systems," Elena explained calmly over the open channel. "Your ships now believe that other Kytheran vessels are enemy targets. They will continue firing until they are destroyed or until they destroy each other." One of the infected cruisers launched a full spread of missiles at Vexthak's flagship. The Admiral barely managed to raise shields in time to survive the attack. "Impossible technology," he snarled. "No species has weapons like these." "You are correct, Admiral," Elena replied. "No other species does. But then you have never fought humans before. We don't just build weapons to win battles. We build weapons to end wars." The 3 nanite-infected ships continued their rampage, firing on anything that moved. 2 more Kytheran cruisers were destroyed by their own allies before the remaining fleet managed to destroy the infected vessels. "Status report," Vexthak demanded. 7 ships lost, Admiral. We have 5 cruisers remaining, including the flagship. 7 ships, more than half his fleet, destroyed by a single human vessel in less than 10 minutes. This was supposed to have been an easy victory against a weak species. "Admiral, we must retreat," his second-in-command pleaded. "We can report their position to headquarters. Let them send a proper battle fleet to deal with this." But Vexathak was beyond reason. His pride, his reputation, his entire career was built on victory through intimidation. He could not accept defeat at the hands of emotional, weak humans. "All ships ramming speed," he ordered. "If we cannot destroy them with weapons, we will crush them with our hulls." The 5 remaining Kithran cruisers accelerated toward the Retribution. Each was still many times larger than the human ship. Even if their weapons were useless, the sheer mass of 5 warships striking simultaneously should be enough to destroy any target. Elena watched the approaching ships with interest. Ramming attack. How primitive. She turned to her tactical officer. "Commander Singh, deploy gravity mines." "Aye, Captain." Gravity mines deployed. Tiny devices, each no bigger than a marble, launched from the Retribution and took positions in space around the human ship. As the Kithran vessels approached, the mines activated. Artificial gravity fields, stronger than anything found naturally in the universe, erupted around each mine. The attacking ships were caught in gravitational forces that stretched and twisted their hulls like rubber. Metal screamed as it was bent beyond its limits. 3 of the Kitharan cruisers were torn apart by the competing gravity fields before they could reach their target. Their hulls split open, spilling atmosphere and crew into the vacuum of space. The 4th ship managed to get through the gravity field, but the stress had damaged its structure. It struck the Retribution shields and crumpled like tin foil against a wall. The human ship barely moved from the impact. Only Vexthak's flagship remained, its heavier armor and stronger construction allowing it to survive the gravity mines. But the ship was badly damaged, systems failing throughout its length. "Admiral, we have lost everything," his second-in-command reported quietly. "Engines are failing, weapons are offline, life support is at 20%. We must surrender." Vexthak stared at the human ship floating undamaged before him. In less than 15 minutes, his entire fleet had been destroyed. 12 of the most powerful warships in the Kitharan military, reduced to debris and memories. "How?" he whispered. "How did they do this?" Admiral Vexthak sat in his command chair, surrounded by sparking consoles and dying systems. His flagship was broken, drifting helplessly in space while the human warship floated nearby like a patient predator. The entire Kitharan fleet was gone, destroyed in less than 20 minutes by a single enemy vessel. "Admiral, incoming transmission from the human ship," his communications officer reported. The young Kitharan's scales were pale with shock and fear. "Put it through," Vexthak said quietly. Captain Vasquez appeared on the damaged screen. Behind her, the human bridge crew worked calmly at their stations. They showed no signs of excitement or bloodlust, despite their overwhelming victory. This somehow made them more frightening. "Admiral, I believe you wanted to know how we defeated your fleet," she said. "The answer is simple. You never understood what you were fighting." Vexthak said nothing. His pride was broken along with his ships. "You studied our surrender records and decided we were cowards," Elena continued. "You saw that we show emotion and decided we were weak. You observed that we have soft skin and fragile bones and assumed we could not fight. Every conclusion was wrong." She stood and walked to the front of her bridge. "Let me tell you what humans really are, Admiral. We are a species that spent 10,000 years learning to kill each other with rocks, sticks, and our bare hands. We fought wars before we discovered fire. We perfected murder before we invented the wheel." The human captain's voice remained calm, but her words carried a weight that made Vexthak shiver. "When we finally reached the stars, we brought all of that knowledge with us. Every weapon you saw today was born from thousands of years of humans trying to find better ways to destroy our enemies. We did not become warriors when we met alien species. We were warriors long before we left our home planet." On the tactical display, Vexthak could see the debris field that had once been his fleet. 12 heavy cruisers, the pride of the Kitharan military, reduced to scrap metal and frozen corpses. "Your plasma lances," he said slowly. "Those were not standard weapons." "Correct. They were designed specifically to penetrate Kitharan shields. We analyzed the energy signatures from your previous attacks and created a weapon to counter them. It took our scientists 3 weeks. And your kinetic weapons? Railguns have been a human technology for over 200 years. We simply made them more powerful. The projectile that destroyed your second ship was accelerated to 97% of light speed." Vexthak thought about the nanite attack. "Those machines that turned our ships against each other." "Nanites were originally developed for medical purposes," Elena explained. "We modified them for military use. They can reprogram any computer system, consume any material, and replicate themselves using enemy resources. 1 nanite can become a billion nanites in less than an hour. And the gravity weapons? Based on our studies of black holes and neutron stars, we learned to create artificial gravity fields and weaponize them. Each mine generates gravitational forces equivalent to a small star. Vexthak was beginning to understand the scope of his mistake. You have been preparing to fight us specifically. Not just you, Admiral. We have been preparing to fight everyone. When humanity reached the stars, we discovered we were not alone. We also discovered that the galaxy was full of species like yours, who believed that might made right, who conquered the weak and enslaved the innocent. Elena's expression hardened. We decided that would not happen to us. So we prepared. We built weapons. We trained soldiers. We created ships like the Retribution. And we waited to see who would be stupid enough to attack us first. The irony was not lost on Vexthak. His own intelligence reports had shown that humans often surrendered when faced with overwhelming odds. What those reports had not mentioned was that humans also learned from every encounter. The humans who surrendered to you, he said slowly, they were gathering intelligence. Every surrender was voluntary, Elena confirmed. Every human who allowed themselves to be captured was a volunteer who knew they might not survive. They studied your ships, your weapons, your tactics, and your psychology. They transmitted everything they learned back to Earth before they died. Vexthak remembered the interrogations, the humans who had seemed so frightened and broken. Now he realized they had been acting, buying time to study their captors. You used our own methods against us, he said. We used your arrogance against you. You believed that showing emotion meant weakness. You never considered that controlled emotion could be a weapon. You assumed that surrender meant cowardice. You never imagined that surrender could be a tactic. The human captain walked back to her command chair. Admiral, your species has conquered 17 others through fear and overwhelming force. You succeeded because you fought species that were afraid to die. Today you met a species that chooses death over slavery. Vexthak looked around his ruined bridge. His crew was staring at him, waiting for orders that would never come. His fleet was gone. His reputation was destroyed. His career was over. What happens now? He asked. Now you get to make a choice, Elena replied. Option 1. I can finish destroying your ship and eliminate the last witnesses to this engagement. Your government will eventually realize that your fleet is missing, but they will not know what happened to it. Vexthak waited for the second option. Option 2. I allow your ship to repair its engines and return to Kytheran space. You report exactly what happened here. You tell your leaders that the humans they thought were weak and emotional just destroyed an entire Kytheran battle fleet without losing a single life. Why would you let me go? Because, Admiral, you are going to deliver a message for me, and that message is more dangerous to your people than any weapon I could build. Elena looked directly into the camera, and Vexthak saw something in her eyes that made his blood freeze. It was not anger or hatred. It was the cold, calculating gaze of a predator that had found prey. The message is simple, she said. Humanity knows about Kepler 442b. We know about every colony your people have destroyed, every innocent life you have taken, every world you have conquered. We have been watching, learning, and preparing. She paused, letting her words sink in. The Kytheran hegemony has a choice to make. You can withdraw from all human space, release any human prisoners you hold, and never threaten another human world again. If you do this, we will consider the matter closed. And if we refuse? Elena smiled, and it was the most terrifying expression Vexthak had ever seen. Then we will do to every Kytheran world what we just did to your fleet. We will hunt down every Kytheran ship, destroy every Kytheran station, and turn every Kytheran colony into a crater. We will not stop until your species is extinct. You cannot be serious. We have thousands of ships, millions of soldiers, entire worlds devoted to war production. Admiral, 20 minutes ago you had 12 heavy cruisers. How did that work out for you? 3 weeks later, Admiral Vexthak stood before the Kytheran High Command on the capital world of Kythara. The massive chamber was filled with the most powerful military leaders in the hegemony. Their scales showed colors ranging from deep purple to bright orange, indicating emotions from curiosity to rage. Repeat your report, Admiral, demanded Supreme Commander Yathaga, the highest-ranking military officer in Kytheran space. Her 4 eyes focused on Vexthak like targeting lasers. Vexthak had given this report dozens of times over the past weeks. Each time his audience reacted with the same mixture of disbelief and fury. My fleet of 12 heavy cruisers engaged a single human vessel in the Terminus Nebula, he said in a flat voice. The ship appeared to be a cargo hauler called the Meridian Dawn. It was actually a warship in disguise, designated the UES Retribution. And this single ship destroyed your entire fleet? Asked General Kexvar, his scales bright red with skepticism. Yes, sir. In approximately 20 minutes, using weapons and technology we have never encountered before. The chamber erupted in angry sounds from the assembled officers. Many refused to believe that humans, whom they considered an inferior species, could possess such advanced military capabilities. The humans must have had reinforcements, suggested Admiral Nexcon. Hidden ships, long-range support, something you missed. No, sir. Sensor records confirm it was a single vessel, operating alone. I have brought the complete tactical recordings for analysis. Supreme Commander Wythoga activated the holographic display in the center of the chamber. The battle played out in miniature, showing the systematic destruction of the Kitharan fleet by advanced human weapons. The assembled officers watched in stunned silence as their most powerful warships were reduced to debris. These recordings could be faked, someone suggested weakly. The wreckage of my fleet is still floating in the Terminus Nebula, Vexthak replied. Any ship can verify the debris field. The humans left it intact as a message. When the recordings finished, the chamber was quiet for several minutes. Finally, Supreme Commander Wythoga spoke. What did this human captain want? She gave me a message to deliver, Vexthak said. The humans know about our attack on their colony at Kepler 442b. They know about all of our military operations against their species. They have been studying us, learning our weaknesses and preparing countermeasures. He paused, remembering Captain Vasquez's cold smile. They offered us a choice. We can withdraw from all human space, release any human prisoners, and cease all hostile actions against their people. If we do this, they will consider the matter closed. And if we refuse, demanded Ithaga, then they will systematically destroy every Kitharan ship, station, and colony until our species is extinct. The chamber exploded in outraged roars. Officers leaped to their feet, scales flashing bright red with fury. The idea that humans, soft and weak humans, would dare threaten the mighty Kitharan hegemony was beyond their comprehension. Impossible, shouted General Kexvar. We have fought 17 species and conquered them all. These humans are no different. Sir, respectfully, these humans are very different, Vexthak replied. They do not fight like the other species we have encountered. They do not surrender when faced with superior numbers. They do not panic under pressure. They fight like... He paused, searching for the right words. They fight like us, sir, but better. Supreme Commander Wythoga studied the tactical displays again. The efficiency of the human attack was undeniable. No wasted shots, no unnecessary destruction, just precise elimination of targets. How many humans were on this ship? She asked. 23, according to their captain. 23 beings destroyed a fleet of 12 heavy cruisers with 4,000 crew members? Yes, sir. The implications were staggering. If a single human ship could destroy a major Kitharan fleet, what could 100 human ships do? What about 1,000? Admiral, in your opinion, was this human captain bluffing about her species' military capabilities? Asked Ithaga. Vexthak thought about Captain Vasquez's calm confidence, her crew's professional efficiency, and the devastating power of their weapons. No, sir. I believe she was telling the truth. The humans have been preparing for war since they first encountered other species. Everything we thought we knew about them was carefully planned misdirection. Explain. The humans who surrendered to us were volunteers, sir. They allowed themselves to be captured so they could study our ships, our weapons, and our tactics. Every interrogation, every prison camp, every slave labor detail was an intelligence-gathering operation. The chamber fell silent again as the officers absorbed this information. Their previous encounters with humans had not been victories at all, but elaborate deception operations. They have been watching us for years, Vexthak continued, learning our weaknesses, developing countermeasures, and waiting for us to make the first aggressive move. When we attacked Kepler 442b, we gave them the justification they needed. Supreme Commander Wythoga walked to the front of the chamber. Her scales had turned a deep blue color, indicating serious thought. Officers, we face a difficult decision, she announced. We can accept the human ultimatum and withdraw from their space, admitting that we have encountered a superior force. Or we can mobilize our entire military and attempt to crush them before they can threaten our homeworlds. We should attack immediately, declared General Kexavar. Send every ship we have to Earth and destroy their homeworld before they can build more of these superweapons. And if Admiral Vexthak is correct about their capabilities? Yathaga asked. What if every human world is defended by ships like the Retribution? What if they have weapons we cannot even imagine? Then we die fighting as warriors should, Kexvar replied. But other officers were not so eager for a potentially suicidal war. They studied the battle recordings again, noting the precision and efficiency of the human attack. This was not the work of primitive savages, but of a highly advanced military force that had been preparing for interstellar conflict for generations. Supreme Commander, said Admiral Nexcon slowly, perhaps we should consider the human offer. A strategic withdrawal is not surrender. We could pull back, study their technology, and develop countermeasures. You want us to run from these soft-skinned weaklings? Kexvar snarled. I want us to survive, Nexcon replied. Admiral Vexthak's fleet was our most advanced. If the humans destroyed it so easily, what hope do our older ships have? The debate continued for hours. Some officers wanted immediate war, believing that Kytheran honor demanded they fight regardless of the odds. Others argued for caution, recognizing that the humans had demonstrated technological and tactical superiority. Finally, Supreme Commander Yathaga called for silence. Admiral Vexthak, this human captain who defeated you, what was your impression of her personally? Vexthak thought carefully before answering. She was professional, competent, and completely without fear. But sir, the most disturbing thing about her was not her skill or her weapons. What then? It was her restraint, sir. She could have destroyed my flagship along with the rest of the fleet. She chose to let me live so I could deliver her message. That level of calculated control, combined with such devastating military power. He paused, his scales turning pale. Sir, I believe the humans are capable of doing exactly what they threatened, and I believe they will do it without hesitation if we refuse their terms. Supreme Commander Yathaga looked around the chamber at her fellow officers. Some still showed red scales of anger, but many were now displaying the blue of uncertainty or the pale colors of fear. The decision is made, she announced. We will accept the human terms. All Kytheran forces will withdraw from human space immediately. All human prisoners will be released. There will be no further hostile actions against human interests. You cannot be serious, General Kexvar protested. This is surrender. This is survival, Yathaga replied coldly. And General, you are relieved of command. Anyone who wishes to continue this discussion may join Admiral Vexthak on indefinite leave. The chamber was silent. No one else spoke against the decision. 3 days later, the message was broadcast throughout Kytheran space and beyond. The hegemony, which had conquered 17 species through fear and superior firepower, was withdrawing from an entire region of the galaxy because 23 humans on a single ship had proven that there were worse things in the universe than Kytheran warriors. The galaxy took notice. And everywhere, species that had been planning their own expansion into human space quietly revised their plans. Humanity had announced its presence among the stars. The announcement was written in the wreckage of those who had underestimated them.